Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and happy Child Tax Credit Awareness Day. I'm Mike Washington. I'm the Director of Outreach, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Senator Bennett's Colorado office. And I have the pleasure of moderating tonight's town hall on the upcoming rollout of the monthly child tax credit payments that will start on July 15th. As a parent of 5 kids, ages 11, 9, 6, 4, and 2, I know how expensive it is to raise a family these days, and it's only growing more costly. The child tax credit will be a boost to the families like mine, and I'm excited to be here tonight to help answer questions about it. Before we get to the questions, I want to start by introducing our two guests. Tonight, I have the privilege of being joined by Colorado Senator Michael Bennet, who has led the work to expand the child tax credit in Washington, D.C. for many years, and Joe Garcia, Colorado's Taxpayer Advocate. And the Taxpayer Advocate is an organization that will play a key role in helping Colorado families access the new benefits for which they're going to be eligible for. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to you, Senator Bennet.
Well, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's on this Facebook Live discussion. Thank you for making some time for it. I also would like, before I make my remarks, just say how sorry I am about yet another tragedy, this one in Arvada, taking the life of, we think, an Arvada police officer. We don't have details tonight, but we're thinking about Arvada and in the state of Colorado as we go through this once again. So with that, I will say a few words and then I'll turn it over, I guess, to Joe, right, Mike? Is that the order? I'm really pleased that we could get together to on Child Tax Credit Awareness Day to discuss the most significant investment that our country has made in children and families in decades. Before I was in the Senate, many of you know I was the superintendent of the Denver Public Schools, and a lot of the families there were working 2 and 3 jobs, and it seemed like no matter how hard they worked, often they couldn't get their kids out of poverty. And over the last 11 years, I've had the privilege of traveling to every part of our state, and we've got a very diverse state in a lot of ways, and I've heard a lot of different things. But if I had to summarize the basic point from people, it's that they're working really hard, and they can't afford some combination of housing, healthcare, higher education, early childhood education, childcare. People feel like they can't save. You know, they're stretched every single month just to pay the bills, and they're worried that their kids are going to live a more diminished life than the life that they're lived. And it's for that reason that I've been fighting for years to expand the child tax credit, and I am incredibly pleased that we got it included in the President's American Rescue Plan. And the result of that is that on July 15th, most families in the country, and by that I mean over 90% of the kids in Colorado, most families in the country will get $250 a month per child and $300 a month per child who's under the age of 6. The credit is what we call fully refundable, which means that there are no income thresholds that you have to meet, but people are eligible from just because they have a child. The expanded child tax credit, which takes the credit from $2,000 to $3,000 and makes it, as I said, payable monthly, and is fully refundable. If you look at all of that together, what we know is that it's going to cut childhood poverty in our country by almost half in a single year, and in Colorado by about the same amount. It's going to lift 57,000 kids out of poverty and benefit over 1 million kids in our state. More than 90% of Colorado's kids are going to benefit from this. So for families, it's going to mean direct help to cover groceries, to cover rent, to save for a college fund, or even maybe for summer camp. And we want to make sure that anyone who's eligible for the monthly payments is able to receive them. If you've already filed your 2020 taxes, you do not need to do anything, and you should receive a payment by mail or direct deposit around July 15th. And if you do not file taxes, you can go to www.childtaxcredit.gov and use the non-filer sign-up tool to fill out your information. I hope you'll help us spread the word. Expanding the child's tax credit was a historic step forward. It's going to make a massive difference in the lives of kids and families here in Colorado and across the country. Our job now is to make these tax cuts for working people and for the middle class permanent. Washington has cut taxes over and over again since 2001 for the wealthiest Americans. This is an opportunity now to make sure that we do the right thing for working Americans and for the middle class on the back end of this pandemic. So let me turn it over to Joe to tell us a little more about what we can all expect on July 15th, and then he and I are happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Senator Bennet. I just want to thank you and your entire staff for putting this together. And good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Garcia. I am the Senior Local Taxpayer Advocate for the state of Colorado. The Taxpayer Advocate is an independent organization within the Internal Revenue Service. And you kind of think of us as the problem solvers of the IRS. What we do is we help taxpayers resolve their problems with the IRS, from tax credits to refunds, examinations, and everything in between. We truly do assist taxpayers with resolving their problems with the IRS. We also assist taxpayers with any type of violation. If a taxpayer feels that their rights as a taxpayer have been violated, the Taxpayer Advocate Service assists with that as well. And so today, with the Child Tax Credit, as Senator Bennet mentioned, those payments will start on July 15th. And for the most part, folks, if you file your 2020 tax return, you won't have to do anything. The IRS is going to be using 2020 filing information. They'll be also even using 2019 filing information if necessary. And for the most part, a large majority of American families will be receiving the child tax credit. The IRS sent over 36 million letters to American families, letting them know of their eligibility for the credit and an estimated amount. If you did not receive those letters, that's okay. As long as you filed your 2020 tax return, you will likely be receiving a credit. As Senator Bennet mentioned, if you are a non-filer without a filing requirement for your taxes, there will be a non-filer portal, which is actually up right now, that you can access and input your information to express your eligibility for the credit. You will also have the opportunity to update your basic information, such as filing requirement, address, so on and so forth, from a secondary portal that the IRS will be putting up as well. And so right now, things seem to be on track for the secondary portal to update your basic information by the IRS. The non-filer portal is up. What we're hearing so far here was 17. And so again, if there are any issues related to these tax credits and these payments, the Taxpayer Advocate Service is here to assist.
Joe, thank you for that and for your great service to the state of Colorado. We really appreciate it. Mike, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thank you, Senator Bennet. If just a prompt for everybody, hey, if you have any questions, feel free to actually submit those into the comment section so that we can have Senator Bennet and or Joe chime in and answer your questions. So the first question is going to go to you, Senator Bennet. Can you tell our audience how the child tax credit has changed? I mean, you've been working on this a long time. How has it changed since then?
Yeah, thanks. So the newest version is based on a bill that I wrote called the American Family Act and introduced it in 2017 with my friend Sherrod Brown from Ohio, and Cory Booker and Kamala Harris actually were the next two co-sponsors of the bill. And we had three major changes. I mentioned a couple earlier, but I think it's useful to say it again. We went from $2,000 to $3,000 per child between age 6 and 17, which that is a big change from the existing credits at $2,000 to $3,000, and it takes it up to $3,600 per child for kids under the age of 6. As I mentioned, the new credit is fully refundable, which means that the poorest families can now access the credit, which they couldn't before. There used to be an income threshold, and that meant that millions of the poorest kids in America didn't benefit from it. And now they will have access, which is one of the reasons why we're cutting childhood poverty almost in half with this program, which is going to actually also reach more than 90% of Colorado's kids. And then the final change that's very significant is that it will, instead of having the credit paid out as one lump sum at the tax filing time, it's going to be paid out on a monthly basis, so that families will have the benefit of this cash when they're paying their bills and trying to decide how to pay the rent at the end of the month. I did a call this morning with Senator Brown with some people from Colorado and Ohio, and one of the moms on the call said that she spends basically the entire month just trying to figure out how to pay the rent. And our hope is that this is for people like that this will be help on a monthly basis rather than having people wait for the annual payment of the child tax credit.
Thank you, Senator. I know I can't wait for my payments, man. My kids can't wait. So, Joe, got a question for you, man. The IRS has been busy preparing resources to help eligible families access the advanced monthly payments. Can you give an update on what tools and resources are already available, and what additional tools we expect to launch in the coming weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. The IRS has been preparing for this for quite some time. All the way back to earlier this year, pre-filing season, which is around that January, February timeframe. That's kind of when the IRS started to prepare to implement the rollout of the child tax credit. Right now, of course, the largest strides the IRS has made is, of course, the non-filer portal, getting that up and running. So if you are a taxpayer who doesn't have a filing requirement, but yet you think you still may be eligible for the child tax credit, you can go ahead and head over to irs.gov. And on the very front of the IRS website is the child tax credit link, where you can click on and be taken to the centralized hub for the child tax credit, and you'll see the non-filer portal link there. Simply click on the non-filer portal link, input the information, and it's very user-friendly, pretty self-explanatory, and that portal is up and running. The secondary portal, where you can update your basic information such as address. Maybe you've moved and you're worried the IRS won't send you a check to the right address. You can update your address on that portal. You can update your bank information if you so choose to do direct deposit. All of those things you'll be able to do on the secondary portal that the IRS is getting ready to launch as well. In terms of manpower, the IRS is expected to be taking phone calls and the like related to the child tax credit. I think what the Taxpayer Advocate Service is doing is really also gearing up for any issues that are going to stem from the child tax credit. So in terms of something that's at the taxpayer's disposal for issue resolution is a phone call to the Taxpayer Advocate Service here in Colorado. I will put that number in the chat here for taxpayers to utilize, but very similar to the EIP payment that went out earlier this year and last year, we do expect some issues, folks. There's a million different reasons maybe why taxpayers may not get their payment. Perhaps the information the IRS has is not updated. Perhaps there are other issues or holds on a taxpayer's account. I mean, we see a bunch of different issues, and we saw a bunch of different issues when EIP rolled out. We do expect some of those same issues, but I can guarantee the Taxpayer Advocate Service is here to help move through those issues, help taxpayers resolve whatever may be holding back their credit payment if they encounter that situation. And so, those are just a few things that the IRS has done and the Taxpayer Advocate Service is doing in order to help folks get the payment with no issues and help overcome any barriers. There's a tremendous amount of outreach that Taxpayer Advocate Service is doing, especially here in Colorado. We work with so many different nonprofit organizations, family organizations, the underserved population in our state to get the word out that this credit is coming. There's going to be an upcoming outreach on June 30th, a local where we're going to assist taxpayers with getting their information updated on site, assist them with inputting on filer portal, the information update portal. Perhaps you're a taxpayer that wants to decline the tax credit. You also have that option, and we will be assisting at this event on June 30th. More information to come on that, folks. And that will be widespread across Facebook and other social media platforms. But there's a lot of different resources available. I would absolutely recommend that taxpayers go to irs.gov, click on the Child Tax Credit link for the latest and greatest.
Thank you so much, Joe. All right, we got a couple of questions coming in from Facebook, Michael. The first question is for you. If I sign up for the Child Tax Credit, will it affect my other government benefits like SNAP and Medicaid?
That's a great question. I was asked that question this morning as well. And the answer is no. Because the child tax credit is not treated as income, it does not count against any of the thresholds for other public benefits.
All right, thank you. Thank you. You guys continue to submit your questions into the Facebook comment section. This is helpful. All right, this next question is going to be for you, Joe. If I haven't got my federal refund yet, will I still receive the child tax credit payment?
The answer is yes, you should. However, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different reasons, lots of different reasons that we see folks as to why folks may not get their refund, may not get their tax credit. And, you know, quite honestly, folks, a lot of the guidance after the fact is being created on the fly because of scenarios just like this question. I haven't got my refund yet. Is that going to hold up my tax credit payment? The honest answer is we're not sure. You should get your payment from what we're hearing with the IRS, but I don't know with 100% certainty because of situations like this. There could be coding errors in a taxpayer's account. There could be, we don't know yet if the child tax credit is going to be released if somebody owes a federal debt. All of these questions we just don't know yet because the guidance is not quite out there. But in general, I would expect a taxpayer to receive their credit payment without issue, even though their refund has not been paid out yet, just because of the backlog of processing of returns that the IRS has right now. So just because you haven't received your refund doesn't necessarily mean you will not receive your child tax credit, because there is a tremendous backlog of returns for 2020 that the IRS is still processing, still in the millions of returns, folks. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you will not get your child tax credit payment. But if there are any issues you run up against, and that includes your refund, folks, if you have not received your refund, I would encourage you all to call the Taxpayer Advocate Service here in Colorado. Those are the types of issues, that we work with and help taxpayers resolve with the IRS. And again, I'll be putting that number in the chat.
Thanks, Joe. Got another question for you, Senator Bennet. Will families who don't sign up in time to get a payment on July 15th lose out? Or is there a way they can still get their CTC benefits eventually?
Well, what I would say is you should please do sign up and try to do that today if you can. I mean, if you haven't filed your 2020 taxes, you should go ahead and do that. And if you don't file taxes, you should go to the IRS website that Joe mentioned so that you can get it done. But I think the answer is that you will not be penalized. You'll be eligible for the tax credits that you deserve. And even if you get them late, you still would get them. And if I'm looking to my staff, Rachel West, to see if I answered that question incorrectly or not.
No, that's exactly right. You will still get the credits even if you sign up later in the year. The IRS will pay them out in larger advance payments. And if you don't sign up at all, you will still get them at the end of the year at tax time with your normal tax refunds. So you
And
will
by the
not.
end of the year, she means next year, right? Because that's the tax time is in April.
Exactly.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. Got another question for you, Joe. Someone ask, can I get the child tax credit payment in one lump sum instead of monthly payments?
The answer is yes, and I want to thank Rachel for kind of tackling that a little bit. But yes, the short answer is yes, you can. You can choose to decline the interim payments from July through December, and if you so choose to receive a refund in full, you can do so when you file your 2021 tax return. And at that point in time, you would receive one lump sum as opposed to monthly payments. So you do have that option, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Joe. Let's see, let's take one more question from Facebook here. Senator Bennet, the enhanced child tax credit was only expanded for 1 year. What's next in the fight to make it permanent?
Well, we got to make it permanent. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, if we've decided that we're going to not accept childhood poverty as a permanent feature of our economy, and that by doing this, we're going to cut it in half. My goal, by the way, is to end childhood poverty in this country. I think that's what we should be doing. We have one of the highest childhood poverty rates in the industrialized world, and some of the lowest economic mobility rates. But this is a big step forward, but it would be really unfortunate if at the end of the year it goes back to where it was. So, in my view, we've cut taxes for years and years and years for the wealthiest people in America. There are a lot of companies that don't pay any taxes and wealthy individuals because they take advantage of the rules, the IRS. And we've done that sort of on the theory that somehow all these benefits are going to trickle down to the rest of the country. And that really hasn't happened. And what I've heard consistently from people across Colorado, as I said earlier, is they're working really hard, but they feel like they can't afford a middle-class life no matter how hard they work. So there are ways of paying for this, and we're having negotiations in Washington to see whether we can make it permanent. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has already said they're going to make it permanent in their version of any infrastructure bill that goes forward. We have to find a way to get something similar done here in the Senate. And I'll mention just some of the. I know Joe's not involved in these politics at all, but many of the groups that represent families in our state and across the country know how important these changes are for their families' lives, the families that they work for and advocate for every single day. And they are pushing members of Congress also to make this permanent. So the Biden administration has proposed that we extend it for 5 years. That would be an incredible victory, but I think that we should do everything we can to try to make sure these benefits last for Americans forever.
Thank you, Senator Bennet. And we have one last practical question that we'd like to ask you, Joe, from Facebook. How do you get the tax credit if the mother claimed the children on her taxes for 2020 and hasn't financially supported them for over 2 years plus?
Yeah, so Michael, that's just another scenario that there's no guidance for at this point. The IRS will use current filing information for 2020. And if 2020 is not on file just yet, or taxpayer does not update their information in the portal or the non-filer portal, the IRS will use 2019 information. So based on that data and based on that data alone, the IRS will make the decision on where the credit goes. And it's usually going to be based on direct deposit or paper check sent out, depending on what your option selected was on your tax return. But unfortunately, in situations like that, we just don't have the guidance yet.
Got it. Appreciate it. We'll be looking out for that additional guidance. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on and for answering some questions for us. We really appreciate it. Senator Bennet, we're at time. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to close
Thanks,
it out.
Mike. I just want to thank you for hosting it, and Rachel, thanks for being part of it. Joe Garcia, our taxpayer advocate, thank you for everything that you do. I should say, you know, that the IRS has really been working very hard. There was a time a number of months ago when people were saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be impossible to make these payments monthly." The IRS and the Treasury Department have been really working hard to try to do it. I know there are going to be mistakes, and I know that's going to be frustrating to people, and we're going to have to work together to get through, the iron out the wrinkles that exist along the way. But hopefully, it's going to be a really great experience for almost everybody starting July 15th to begin to receive these monthly payments, to begin to imagine again an economy that works for everybody, not just the people at the very top. That's what we need to find a way to build again in America, and I think this is a very important step forward in that journey. So thank you everybody for being on tonight. I hope I'll see you sometime in person soon. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Senator Bennet.